Has it been a good morning? I don't know about you, but our Tenant Power in Action panel was wonderful. If we can give them a round of applause again. So this morning, we centered in Tenant's power, and I want us to carry that out as we close out the morning together. This next session is a little different than what you might expect, because we are going to engage in some visioning together. Now, our Tenants in Power session laid a strong foundation for our vision, because there is no future that we are creating where tenants don't have power. Is that correct? So we are clear that a key piece of our future is multiplying, mobilizing, and amplifying tenant power. So I want you to do something with me this morning. For the remainder of the morning, we are going to stalk the healed future. I'm going to say that again, just to give you a chance to let the words marinate. We are going to stalk the healed future. Oh, let me say it one more time. I just love this group. We are going to stalk the healed future. Say it with me. Stalk the healed future. Now, you all have a sense of what this terminology means, that when we say stalk, we don't mean play with it, right? We are literally going to go get it. And we are not going to let it go. There's an energy of commitment around the word stalk. There's an energy of persistence around the word stalk. There's an energy of investment around the word stalk. Now, I want you to know that that term, stalk the healed future, is not one that originated with me. So I always want to give credit where credit is due. 16 years ago, I was in the mountains of Peru. And in those mountains, I was a part of a trip, a tour, and I got a chance to meet with some Andean shamans. And one of the things that they did is they explained the work of the shaman. And I found this to be very interesting. And they said, you know, people come to a shaman often when they are in distress, when they have experiences of hurt or pain or suffering. It can be emotional, physical, spiritual, right? But there is some disquiet, some dis-ease, and they are seeking relief and healing. And the job of the shaman is to be able to relate to the pain, but to stalk their healing. Relate to the pain, but stalk the healing. Be absolutely clear that healing is possible for them, and be wholly committed to their healing, and to hold that until such time as they can imagine it and believe it for themselves, which then accelerates the healing process. Now, I don't know if you can tell this by looking at me, but I told you a little bit about my story yesterday, that I'm actually from Southeast Anacostia, Washington, D.C. So you might know that I am not an Andean shaman. You know what I'm saying? But I actually believe that the description of the shaman is apropos also for organizers, for leaders of any kind, right? For those of us who are committed change makers. That change makers, community organizers, leaders, policy transformers, system changers have to do what? Stalk the healed future. They have to be clear about the points and places of pain, despair, and suffering. They have to understand the dysfunctions that are causing that suffering. And then they have to get clear about what the healing or resolution is. So I'm in a room full of people who are fighting for housing justice, people who are community organizers, people who are system transformers, people who are policy change makers, and who are aware of the difficulties, the dysfunctions, and the damage that's being created by entrenched bias and our systems of neglect. We are familiar with what is wrong, but for the rest of the day, we're going to paint the picture of what right looks like. And we're going to take these pictures with us into and through the rest of the forum, and hopefully with us as we leave this place. What I know about powerful visions, whether they are individually sourced or they are collectively sourced, right, is that they serve as positive resources that fuel our resilience, right, that help build our stamina for the long haul. Because you heard Miss Geraldine say, this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint. With the sprint, you can give it all you got and then pass out in 20 seconds. With the marathon, you got to get up again and 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 again. How do we do that? What is it that resources the long-term investment, the long-term action, right? Mrs. B, who's in her 90th year, what makes that possible? Now, I know the good Lord has made you possible, but your stamina in this, or Mrs. Sherrod, right? What makes that stamina possible? Part of that is clarifying what we are working towards, right? Not just what isn't working. So we're going to spend the rest of this morning getting a chance to do that. Now, I have been inspired by Laura Ramos, and I've been inspired by our cohort members who said we need to do visioning, but we don't want to do it in the usual way. We want to actually hold space to bring in our cultural customs and to bring in our creativity. So this isn't going to be your usual visioning session. In our time together, we are going to do some small group work, and then we'll do some large group coming back together. I want to say one more thing, though, before I give instructions around that. The visions that we cast may not materialize exactly as we plan. They never do. The future is always more dynamic. We are an input. We're not the only input. But what I do know is that when we organize our collective attention, action, and resource, we make stuff happen. We call that agency, we call that power. And the truth about the futures that we are going to cast together is that they are not light years away. They are not miles away. They are critical choices away. Critical choices. Critical choices. So I want you to think about these futures not as impossible, but as adjacent possibles. They're right next to us if we could mobilize the kind of energy, effort, fight, creativity necessary to make those choices and get others to do the same. I'm not asking for your vision of 2400. I'm asking for your vision of 2024. Critical choices away. So, here's the big picture. Our task is to create an immersion experience of the healed future that provides us a felt sense of the well-being we are creating in the world through all of your individual efforts and your collective efforts. What does a vibrant, just world look like for you and your people, your community? Isn't that what we're fighting for? Housing justice? Right? So what's that look like? What is a vibrant, just world that is made possible by the work you do? What does your well-being look like in that world? If you have a vision of a vibrant, just future that does not include your well-being, then that's just confusion from oppression. Because all of this effort is so that we actually live better. We want to make the healed future come alive in the next 90 minutes. Can you help me do that? I'm sorry, can you help me? What? We're going to make the healed future come alive in the next 90 minutes. Can you help me do that? Okay. So here it is. We're going to break into 3 groups. One group will be those who will create visions of the healed future. And in the back, on these last 5 tables, if you go up the steps in the back, on the tables, you will find markers and glue sticks and scissors and stickies and all kinds of stuff, right? Construction paper, right? So that you can create visions. So for those of you who like to draw and doodle, I got you. Right, we're trying to get some of that right brain in so that it's not just the left brain. So if you want to color, this is your place. Right, but we'll ask you, and you'll get instructions from our facilitator. We've got Gabby back there. Raise your hand. Right, and you'll see that big mural in the back because your creations will then go up. We're creating an exhibit of the healed future for those who come to the forum. Right? So I'm going to ask you, for those of you who want to do that, you all are my vision keepers. And whatever you make is sufficient. We are not judging you on artistic skill, right? You might be, you might be Pablo Picasso, but you might just be Rebecca Bennett, who's good at stick figures, right? So there's one group that will create visions of the healed future. There's a second group who's going to answer the question, what does the healed future sound like? And for you all, I'm asking you all to develop soundtracks of the healed future. Oh. For those of you who love music, right? For those of you who write affirmations, right? We heard Miss Rutha May yesterday. She might have given us some of that soundtrack. I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, right? You with me? Can keep on talking, marching up to, marching up to freedom slaying. Okay, that's a part of the soundtrack. You with me? Or JR, we are the people. What? We got a story. What? To tell the whole wide world it's the... What? All right. What? So are you with me? Oh, yeah. Like, I'm telling you, it's not your mama's session. Yes, we are the people. So that's a chant, right? Or we heard Miss Geraldine say, when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. There you go. I think y'all soundtrack people are ready to go. Right? So I'm going to ask for those of you who want to create the soundtrack for the healed future, I'm going to ask you to think of what songs, what sounds, what affirmations, what chants capture what we want to live. Right? What we want to live. Let it be from our tongues. Life and death are in the tongue. Right? So there we go. So all my soundtrack people, right? You get the opportunity to do that. You might have music that inspires you, right? And you can list songs that really inspire you. We'll post those up too so that people during the forum can download a song. One of my favorites is R-E-S-P-E-C-T, right? Like, that's a part of my future. It's part of my soundtrack. All right, for my last group, my third group, group number 1, vision keepers. You all get to make little murals, pictures, vision boards, whatever you want to make in the back. You've got supplies. For my soundtrack folks, we're right over here, right? So you all will get a chance to create soundtracks. So I'm going to ask anybody who wants to create a soundtrack to be on this side of the room, right? And then my last group are my storytellers. What? Didn't we hear stories up here this morning? Right? I want to know, what are the stories from the healed future? Or my poets, right? What are the stories and the poems that describe what the healed future looks like for us? Right? One of my stories is, in my healed future, I see I see moms that carry babies full term, that go home to quality housing, that don't have black mold in their households, jeopardizing their kids or them, that if there is a problem, those problems get resolved with ease and effort. There is enough funding to be able to keep housing in excellent condition, to make it universally accessible. What? Okay. That's a story. Exactly. That's right. So that's in your story, right? The programs. Our children have programs that cultivate their intellectual, social, emotional, physical genius. They're not greeted with images of pathology because they aren't broken. They are beloved. They are wanted. They are nurtured. They are protected. How about that? Like, if all of our efforts don't help make that kind of reality possible, what are we doing? So I'd like for my storytellers and my poets to come up with stories about what the healed future looks like. We're not trying to get a single story, because no reality has a single story. It is made up of the many stories. No reality has just one sound. It is made up of many sounds. No reality has one image. It is made up of many images and pictures. But by the time we are done, we will have sounds for the healed future, visions for the healed future, and stories of the future that we are creating. And they will serve as fuel, as resource, as fire in our bones, to keep doing the work that we do, because in our visions, we are centering our well-being. My hope is that in your healed future, you don't see yourself broken and exhausted. Because part of this healed future is for you. For you. For you. Everybody with me? Vision folks in the back, sound trackers over here, storytellers and poets over here. Do you have a question? Yes. Yes, if you move quickly. If you move quickly. But I would say start with whatever one moves you, because we're going to take the next about 50 minutes or so to do the stuff, and then we'll come back in the large group and we'll share and have large group participation. Okay? All right, everybody, please move to the portion of the room that symbolizes what you want to do. You will have a facilitator there who will meet you. Vision keepers in the back, sound trackers on this side, storytellers and poets over here. Soundtrack Miss Joy is over here with Andrew. Soundtrack with Andrew. Storytelling with Sydney. Vision keeping with Gabby.